Alhamdulillah Rabbil Alameen. Salatu wassalamu ala Sayyidina Muhammad wa ala alihi wa sahbihi wa man ihtada bihuda ila yawmiddin. Amma ba'd. Dear brothers and sisters, this is a new lesson of our commentary on Bulugh al-Maram. And we're still speaking about the narrations of chapter Babu Ishrat al-Nisa, the relation with the wives. We've reached to this hadith of Jabir ibn Abdullah radiallahu anhu. Yeah. عن جابر بن عبد الله رضي الله عنهما قال: كانت اليهود تقول إذا أتى رجل امرأته من دبرها في قبلها كان الولد أحول، فنزلت: نساؤكم حرث لكم فأتوا حرثكم أن شئتم. الآية متفق عليه واللفظ لمسلم. Narrated Jabir ibn Abdullah radiallahu anhu, the Jews used to say, when a man has intercourse with his wife through the vagina, but from her backside, the child will be squint-eyed. Then the verse came down, your wives are a tilth to you. So come to your tilth however you wish, agreed upon. The wording is Muslims. Okay, this hadith shows that there is no blame on the husband to intercourse with his wife from her back. And that's what the Jews used to say is wrong. It's not something agreed. And the Jews usually, until now, we find the conservative Jews or the Orthodox Jews very conservative in their relationship with their wives. And subhanAllah, this influenced the Ansar, so they were conservative as well. And that's why once an Ansari, a Muhajiri, married an Ansari woman, so when he went to do these types of things, she refused, and the relationship between his wife became. It started. Problems that started happening. So when it reached to the Prophet ﷺ, he said to them that you can do whatever you want as long as it's in the vagina, not in the anus. So this is the idea. وعن ابن عباس رضي الله تعالى عنهما قال: قال رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم: لو أن أحدكم إذا أراد أن يأتي أهله وقال بسم الله اللهم جنبنا الشيطان وجنب الشيطان ما رزقتنا فإنه إن يقدر بينهما ولد في ذلك لم يضره الشيطان أبدا. متفق عليه. Narrated Ibn Abbas radiallahu anhu, Allah's Messenger sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, if anyone who intends to have intercourse with his wife says, in the name of Allah, Bismillah, O Allah, keep us away from the devil and keep the devil away from us. Or from what? No, from what you have provided to us. You have provided us of children. Should it be ordained that a child be born to them thereby, Satan will never harm it. Agreed upon. So this is one of the morals that the Prophet ﷺ is teaching us to do. It's permissible, not permissible, it's preferable to say this when you want to intercourse with your wife, and if a child would come, the child would be prevented from the Satan. And maybe many people don't pay attention to this, and that's why the children come rebellious and bad, and I don't know what. Of course, this needs more than that to train the child and take care of him, etc. So it's not only the idea of the Satan; it's the idea of training and taking care of the children as well. عن أبي هريرة رضي الله تعالى عنه عن النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم قال: إذا دعا الرجل امرأته إلى فراشه فأبت أن تجيء فبات غضبان لعنتها الملائكة حتى تصبح. متفق عليه واللفظ البخاري ومسلم. كان الذي في السماء سخطا عليها حتى يرضى عنها. Narrated Abu Hurairah radiallahu anhu, the Prophet ﷺ said, when a man calls his wife to come to his bed for marital relations, and she refuses to come, and he spends the night in anger, the angels curse her till the morning. Agreed upon with the wording is al-Bukhari. The wording is al-Bukhari's. Muslim has, he who is in heavens is displeased with her till her husband is pleased with her. Okay, what did we get from this hadith? We get from this hadith that for a chesty person that never desires, or never, not desires actually, never looks at any woman except his wife, never practices sex except with his wife, never looks at a woman except his wife. So his wife is, he doesn't have any way to have his sexual pleasure except with his wife. So when his wife doesn't pay attention to him and she doesn't fulfill his needs or his desires, therefore that would lead him to start thinking about bad things. If he's not so religious, that's what's going to happen. Or at least he's going to be squeezed, and he needs to fulfill his desires. So therefore, she is doing, or she is leading him to do all types of bad things. Or at least he might search for another woman to marry, actually. And it's not always easy to marry another woman. So therefore the Prophet ﷺ warned wives from doing these types of things. Of course, I'm not speaking about a woman that has an excuse. I'm speaking about a lazy woman, or a woman that doesn't care, or something like that. This is the ideal. So if it's only she's lazy, or she doesn't want to she doesn't have the idea, or anything like that doesn't have any serious matter, therefore that is a major sin, and she is gambling with her relationship with her husband. So sorry to say that many wives do this, and they don't pay attention to this hadith. On the other side, the husband has to be smart and clever, and not only think about his desires without thinking about the other spouse. If she's tired, she's busy, the whole day she was working, etc., he has to consider that, actually. But sometimes, so this is the idea. Narrated وعن ابن عمر رضي الله تعالى عنهما أن النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم لعن الواصلة والمستوصلة والواشمة والمستوشمة. متفق عليه. Narrated Ibn Umar رضي الله عنهما, the Prophet ﷺ cursed the woman who joins false hair to her real hair extensions, and the one who asks for it to be done to her, and the woman who tattoos others, and the one who has it done for her. Agreed upon. Okay. Okay, now this hadith is speaking about two things. Two things. The first thing is that some women don't have a lot of hair. So they put new hair tied to their hair, which makes the hair a lot. And it doesn't matter the hair is from her or from somebody else, which means it's her hair, old hair that she has, and she put it on her head, or she took another hair and put it. So all this is haram. Why? It's changing the creation of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And this is a main thing that we have. What is the ruling of changing the creation of Allah Almighty? Anyone who changes the creation of Allah Almighty is cursed. So that is a major sin. So imagine if it's a major sin to add hair to your hair. What are we going to say about the ones that change the whole sex from male to female or female to male, or the ones who change many things in their body, like what's happening nowadays in the West? That is totally forbidden, and it's considered as major sin, and it leads to curse the one who does that. Now the tattoos are the same. The tattoos here are the same. If you put tattoos on your body, that is a major sin. So sorry to say that there are many Bedouins in Muslim lands that used to do that, and they still do it in some places. Especially to the woman, not to the men, to the woman. And sometimes there are some tribes that put tattoos to differ the members of the tribe from others. And all this is totally haram, major sin. And in the West, it became very known and spread that everybody goes doing tattoos in his body. Sometimes it's very ugly and bad. Sometimes they change the whole face, and they make tattoos in their whole body, and they become so ugly and bad. I don't know why people do that to themselves. I don't know why somebody would change the creation of Allah, but this is what happens. So therefore, this hadith shows us that making tattoos, it's not permissible. Some women would think that it's permissible, so they would like to do that to their husbands to be beautiful in their eyes, but that's actually haram. It's not permissible. وعن جذامة بن وهب رضي الله تعالى عنها قالت: حضرت رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم في أناس وهو يقول: قد هممت أن أنهى عن الغيلة، فنظرت في الروم وفارس فإذا هم يغيلون أولادهم فلا يضر ذلك أولادهم شيئا، ثم سألوه عن العزل فقال رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم: ذلك الوأد الخفي. رواه مسلم. Okay, narrated Judama bint Wahb radiallahu anha. I was with Allah's Messenger sallallahu alaihi wasallam, along with some people, when he was saying, I have intended to prohibit ghila. What's ghila? I have intended, it's sexual intercourse with a woman who is breastfeeding, with your wife, of course, with your wife that is breastfeeding. But I considered the Romans and the Persians and saw that they engaged in ghila without any injury being caused to their children thereby. Then they asked him about azl, withdrawing the penis before emission of semen to avoid conception. And Allah's Messenger ﷺ replied, that is the secret way of burying alive, reported by Muslim. That's the secret way of burying alive. Okay, now we have two things here. The first thing is when you intercourse with your wife and she's still breastfeeding or she's pregnant. These are called ghila. If the wife is still pregnant and you intercourse with her, no problem about that at all. And no problem about when you intercourse with her and she's still breastfeeding. There's no blame on you. And here the Prophet ﷺ said that he was going to prevent us from doing that because he thought that that would affect the child because he's breastfeeding and it might affect him. But he said that I saw these two great empires, Persia and Rome, do that and nothing happens to their children. Their children, nothing happens to them. So therefore, this means that there's no blame on you to do that. Now the second thing is al-azl. Al-azl is that you don't want to have children and you want to organize your life. You have children, you're busy with them. You're busy with them in teaching and stuff like that. And you want to have some time until you decide to have other children or whatever. In the ancient days, the way that they used to do is that they don't complete their intercourse, and therefore, no pregnancy. This is the idea, actually. But some used to say that, or some thought that would be unpermissible. Now here the Prophet ﷺ, when he was asked about this, he said that is a secret way to bury your child alive. A secret way to bury your child alive. Does that mean that it's haram? Well, that's what Ibn Hazm says. Ibn Hazm says that it's haram and no one is allowed to do that. And therefore, all things that people do to organize their lives is haram according to Ibn Hazm's opinion. So therefore, according to Ibn Hazm, eating anything to stop having children or doing anything that would stop pregnancy is haram. But the majority of scholars don't say that. They don't have any problem about this. You're allowed to do those things that help you organize your life. And for this hadith, they say that we have other authentic hadith that show that there's no blame on you to do this thing. And I'm going to read them right now. Some scholars say, well, actually, this means that it's unpermissible. Not unpermissible, no. It's unpreferable to do it. But if you do it, there isn't any blame on you to do that. Okay, so he didn't say it's what, because what it's burying the girls, especially the girls. Some Bedouins used to do this in the ancient era, in the ignorance era. They used to bury their children alive to get rid of them because they're girls. They used to hate girls, or because they don't have money to provide them, and they think that they are the providers, not Allah Almighty. So that's why the Quran said, "Don't kill your children. We provide you and them." And in another verse in Surah Al-Isra, we provide them and you. So the verse comes in Surah Al-An'am and Surah Al-Isra. The one of them says we provide you and them. One says we provide them and you. So it's not your business. The provider is Allah Almighty. So don't do anything and don't think that you're the one who's providing them. Okay? So this is the idea. Now, look at this hadith. وعن أبي سعيد الخدري رضي الله تعالى عنه أن رجلا قال يا رسول الله إن لي جارية وأنا أعزل عنها وأنا أكره أن تحمل وأنا أريد ما يريد الرجال وإن اليهود تحدثوا أن العزل الموؤودة الصغرى. قال كذبت اليهود لو أراد الله أن يخلقه ما استطعت أن تصرفه. رواه أحمد وأبو داود واللفظ له والنسائي والطحاوي ورجاله ثقات. Narrated Abu Sa'id al-Khudri radiallahu anhu, a man said, "O Allah's Messenger, I have a slave girl and I withdraw. I do the azl. And I dislike that she become pregnant. But I want from her what a man wants from a woman. That means he wants to practice sex. But he doesn't want pregnancy. So he wants sex, he doesn't want pregnancy. Maybe because he's enjoying his life with her and he doesn't want her to be pregnant, and that would prevent him from enjoying his life with her. Maybe. And the Jews say withdrawing the penis to avoid conception is the minor form of burying alive. He replied, the Jews told a lie. For if Allah intended to create it, you wouldn't be able to turn it away. Reported by Ahmad and Abu Dawood. The wording is Abu Dawood's, and Nasa'i and Tirmidhi also reported it. Its narrators are reliable. Okay, so this hadith, the Jews said it's a minor type of killing your children alive, burying them alive. Doesn't this mean that it's the same what the Prophet ﷺ said in the previous hadith? No, it's not the same. Secret way, it's not minor way, because minor way, it's like saying that it is forbidden, and what you did is haram. And I told you that Jews are very conservative in these types of things until now. But for us, no, it's different. So here the Prophet ﷺ says, do it or don't do it, that's up to you. But if Allah Almighty decides something, it'll happen. How come it will happen? Well, you might do this thing, but something would get dropped and she would get pregnant. It can happen. You can't be sure about this, actually. So therefore, he told him, do it or don't do it. If Allah Almighty wants the child to become, the child would become. That's it. She would get pregnant. وعن جابر بن عبد الله رضي الله عنه قال كنا نعزل على عهد رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم والقرآن ينزل ولو كان شيء ينهى عنه لنهانا عنه القرآن متفق عليه ولمسلم فبلغ ذلك نبي الله صلى الله عليه وسلم فلم ينهنا عنه. So narrated Jabir ibn Abdullah in the lifetime of Allah's Messenger صلى الله عليه وسلم, when the Quran was being revealed, we used to engage in azl. Hence, if it had been something to be forbidden, the Quran would have forbade us from doing it, agreed upon. And Muslim has that which we were doing reached the Prophet ﷺ, and he didn't forbid us from doing it. Which means that if it was forbidden, the Prophet ﷺ would say that it's forbidden. Now actually these are the narrations that the scholars said that what Ibn Hazm says is wrong. Why? Because if it was forbidden, it was forbidden. These hadith are the last hadith that the Prophet ﷺ knew, and it was in the last days of his life, sallallahu alaihi wasallam. So therefore, how can you say that the previous hadith is it abrogated all these narrations? Abrogated, that means you need to know the date of every hadith, and you can't know that. There's nothing that would tell you. And more than that, we can say that he's speaking about something that was always, which means he says we used to do this in the days of the Prophet ﷺ, and the Quran was revealed, and nothing came saying, no, that's haram, you're not allowed to do that, etc. And more than that, in Muslim's narration, he says that the Prophet ﷺ used to know, but he never prevented us from doing that. He never said, hey guys, I heard that you're doing so and so and so stop doing those things, as he says in other things. So therefore, this means that this action is not forbidden. And if you do it now, that means there's no blame on you. And more than that, if you do all types of other things, like eating a pill, a type of medicine that prevents the woman from getting pregnant, or doing all other things that people do, most of those things are not forbidden. Yeah, it's a type of organizing your life. Yeah. But what is haram? What is haram is to make a policy that no one is allowed to have more than 2 children, or no one is allowed to add so and so, or you stop pregnancy forever. All these things are haram. No one is allowed to do that. Now, these guys who stop pregnancy, do they have any guarantee that their children would stay alive? What if the children get killed or died or whatever, and then they want to have new children? They can't have it because they stopped it. So it's a type of stopping. It's a type of gambling and playing in the creation of Allah Almighty, as we said before. And here we finish this chapter and enter to a new chapter, which is Bab al-Sadaq, chapter 3, the brittle gifts, Mahr. So what is al-Sadaq? What is Mahr? Well, al-Sadaq, or Mahr, it's a type of thing that you give to a woman to marry her. And it's one of the main things that are pillars of marriage. Pillars of marriage is the husbands, the wife, the 2 spouses, and the contracts, and the wali, which is the parents of the woman, or husband, or father, or anyone who can take care of the marriage, and and after that, the witness, the two witnesses, and the bridal. So this is the idea. So now here, Anas ibn Malik radiallahu ta'ala anhuma, and the Nabi sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, أنه أعتق صفية وجعل عتقها صداقها متفق عليه. Narrated Anas, the Prophet sallallahu alayhi wa sallam sets Safiya radiallahu anha free, and made her freedom her dowry. Sorry, I said brittle. No, not brittle. I said, yeah, brittle gifts. So uh, so he says, and made her freedom her dowry. Now look, Safiya is was the Jewish wife of the Prophet ﷺ. Of course, she converted to Islam, or it's better to say she was the Israelites wife of the Prophet ﷺ. She's called Safiya bint Huyay ibn Akhtab. Her father was the leader of Banu al-Nadir. Of course, he was a Jew. He fought against the Prophet ﷺ in many battles. He's the one who gathered people in the Battle of the Trench or the Battle of the Parties. And then he's the one who led Banu Qurayza to break their agreement with the Prophet ﷺ, to betray the Prophet ﷺ. So they were killed, and he was killed with them. Okay? And when the Muslims went to conquer, Khaybar, her husband was killed, Kinana ibn Rabi', and therefore she was captured as a captive. So therefore, the Prophet ﷺ decided to marry her after she finishes her period. And she became Muslim, so the Prophet ﷺ decided to make her dowry her freedom. He released her, and she became free, and he married her as a wife. So she is one of the Ummahat al-Mu'minin, al-Mu'minin, Safiya radiallahu tabaraka wa ta'ala. Okay, now this means that if anyone has a slave woman, of course, it doesn't. We don't have now slavery. It doesn't exist right now. But in the ancient days, is he allowed to free her and marry her and make her dowry her freedom? This is the Hanafis say this. Not Hanafis, actually, Hanbalis and Abu Yusuf, student of Abu Hanifa, say that. But the majority of scholars don't say that. And they say that this is not considered as a bridal. Okay? And they say that if it happens, that's not considered as a proper marriage. And if she wants to get married, she has to have a dowry. Now, why do they say that this is not proper? And the Prophet ﷺ did it. Well, they say that's an exception to the Prophet ﷺ. Why? Because they say that the dowry has to be known and a specific money. And releasing a slave is not known and it's not clear. So it can't be considered as a dowry. And they say that the Prophet ﷺ has had an exception that he can marry anyone without a dowry. I feel that the opinion of the Hanbalis and Abu Yusuf is more accepted. Why? Because sometimes when you do something to somebody, it's considered as a favor that it needs to be. It's something that you can pay on it. If I work for some, like subhanallah, Musa alayhi salam worked for the priest of Midian, and that was the dowry of his daughter. So he worked 10 years. and that was a dowry his daughter. And it happened even to other prophets like Yaqub alayhi salam. He went working with his uncle and he married his daughter, Leah. And then he told him you can work again and married the other daughter, which was Rachel, Rahil. So, of course, in their era, it was allowed to have two sisters as wives. The story is in the Bible, actually. The story is in the Bible. But anyway, but the Musa's story, Moses it's in the Quran, and it's known and it's clear. So anyway, it's the same thing of the story that I saw of the Sahabi that didn't have anything except teaching Quran. So he taught her Quran. The Prophet said that's the dowry. That's her dowry. وعن أبي سلمة بن عبد الرحمن أنه قال سألت عائشة رضي الله عنها كم كان صداق رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم قالت كان صداقه لأزواجه 12 أوقية ونشا قالت أتدري ما النش قال قلت له قالت نصف أوقية فتلك 500 درهم فهذا صداق رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم لأزواجه رواه مسلم. Narrated Abu Salama ibn Abdul Rahman radiallahu anhu, I asked Aisha radiallahu anha, how much had Allah's Messenger sallallahu alaihi wasallam given us dowry? She replied, his dowry to his wives was 12 uqiyya and nish. She asked, do you know what a nish is? He replied, no. She said, it is half an uqiyya. Hence, the total was 500 dirhams, and which is silver, and that was Allah's Messenger sallallahu alaihi wasallam's dowry to his wives, reported by Muslim. Okay. This hadith is one of many hadith that teach us to be easy in the dowry. Don't make it so expensive like some people make expensive dowries as if they are going to sell their daughters. So the best one in our lives is and the model is the Prophet ﷺ. And look, all of his wives, he used to give them 12 uqiyah, and one uqiyah is 40 dirhams. So therefore 12 is 480, and nish, as she said, is half uqiyah, which is 20 dirhams, which is going to be 500 uqiyah, 500 dirhams. Now this doesn't mean all of them were like that. This means the majority, most of them like that. Or else Khadija, Safiya, Juwayriya, and Habiba were not like that. Khadija, he married her in the beginning of his life, before Islam. Safiya, he just released her, and that was her dowry. Juwayriya, it's the same. He helped her, and she bought herself. And Habiba, radiallahu anha, the Negasi paid her dowry, and it was expensive because he's a king, of course. So therefore, it's permissible for the dowry to be 500 dirhams. To whom can do that? What's 500 dirhams? 500 dirhams is 500. Okay, every dirham I said it's now 500 dirhams. It's equal to 50 golden dinars. And the dinar, which means it's 175 gram golden gram. So just see how much is it, and you would know how much was his dowry. Sallallahu. Okay. And when you make the dowry so expensive, you're making marriage difficult, and many people would stop getting married. I don't have money. Most of the youth nowadays don't have money. They need just something to help. So making these types of things, it's a type of making marriage difficult. And this would make you lose husbands for your daughters. You need young men to marry your daughters. And no one would like to see his daughters sitting down at home without any husbands. And then they grow up. No one. Every woman likes to have a family. Every woman likes to have children, to call her, to take care of them. And every man likes to be a leader of a family and work for his family and stuff like that. But when you complicate the life, people would find it difficult to do that. And of course, because most people have their feelings, sexual feelings, that would lead them to fornicate and do these types of forbidden things. That's why people have to help the youth to get married. Okay. وعن ابن عباس رضي الله عنهما قال لما تزوج علي فاطمة رضي الله عنها قال له رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم أعطها شيئا قال ما عندي شيء قال فأين درعك الحطمية رواه أحمد وأبو داود والنسائي وصححه الحاكم بل ابن حبان. Narrated Ibn Abbas radiallahu anhuma, when Ali radiallahu anhu married Fatima radiallahu anhu, Allah's Messenger sallallahu alaihi wasallam said to him, give her something as dowry. He replied, I have nothing. He said, where's your hutamiya coat of mail? Reported by Abu Dawood and An-Nasa'i. Allah's Hakim graded it sahih, authentic. So therefore, what do we get from this hadith? This hadith means that it's permissible and preferable to give the dowry to the wife before you come home, before the husband meets his wife. Because Ali radiallahu anhu, he engaged on Fatima radiallahu anha before Badr. And then when the battle finished, then he came and he took her to his home. The Prophet ﷺ stopped him. He said, no, wait a second. You have to give the dowry and then take your wife. So what is he going to give her? He gave her his shield, okay? As in this hadith. So the dowry was the shield. And this means that it's obligatory to give something before you take your wife. Now, what is the shield that he gave her? Wait a second here. This is a gift. It's not the dowry. Because it said that Ali radiallahu anhu gave the dowry in the engagements, which was 400 dirhams. And here he said to him, sallallahu alaihi wasallam, give her something. Okay, so this is so the majority of scholars say that it's not this is not obligatory. It's only permissible. It's not permissible, it's preferable. And they say that this is what the hadith means. It's not something obligatory that you have to give something before you. And what proves that Uqba ibn Amir radiallahu anhu, when he he married the guy that came to him and said to him, "Do you have something?" He says, "Only a gold, only I don't have anything, only my clothes." So he went to his wife and he still didn't give her anything. And later on, he taught her the surahs of the Quran. What is this gift? Well, it's a type of honoring the wife and making love between both spouses. So therefore, you give the dowry, and then there are gifts. And nowadays, there are a lot of things that are in our cultures, and it differs from a country to another. And all these things are beautiful and good. When you give the gifts, you give a specific ring, you give some beautiful necklaces and stuff like that, plus the dowry. All these types of things are good and fine, and that's a type of, and Islam actually respects the culture, as long as the culture doesn't conflict with Islam. But don't exaggerate. This is the idea. Don't exaggerate. وعن عمرو بن شعيب عن أبيه عن جده رضي الله عنهم قال رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم: أيما امرأة نكحت على صداق أو حباء أو عدة قبل عصمة النكاح فهو لها، وما كان بعد عصمة النكاح فهو لمن أعطيه، وأحق ما أكرم الرجل عليه ابنته أو أخته. رواه أحمد والأربعة إلا النسائي. Narrated Amr ibn Shu'aib of his father's authority from his grandfather. Allah's Messenger said, if any woman marries for a dowry, a gift, or a promise before contracting the marriage, it belongs to her. As for whatever is fixed to her after contracting the marriage, it belongs to the whomever it has been given. The most worthy gift a man is honored with is what he gets on account of the marriage of his daughter or sister. Reported by Ahmad and al-Arba'a, except at-Tirmidhi. Okay, now look. The Malikis say that they consider this hadith. Imam Malik rahimahullah says the woman is married by her father, and uh, if the father says that there's a condition here, I need a gift to my daughter, so he's no problem about that. And that would be for the daughter, not for the husband, not for the father, to the daughter. Unless she leaves it to her father, says, "Okay, that's for you, Dad." Now, if the gift is given to the father, after she gets married, so it's considered for him. I'm honoring my father-in-law because I married his daughter, so I'm honoring. That's fine, fantastic. So it's for the father, not for the girl. Okay. The Hanbalis say that the father can make any condition, like saying, "Well, I want part of the dowry. The dowry is my daughter's, but I want part of it, or I want a gift for me." Even if he says, "I want the whole dowry for me," unless it's he's taken all of her, all what she. And they say that all of the children are their fathers. Anta wa maluka li abik. You and your money or your property is for your father. So the Hanbalis say no problem about that. The Shafi'is say no, we don't agree about anything. They say if the father or the guardian makes this condition, the whole dowry is nullified. That not the dowry. The dowry is nullified. Make a new dowry. The marriage is good, is valid, but he needs to make a new dowry, and nothing is for the guardian, because it's as if he's making some of the dowry, which is actually making intercourse with that woman legal, as if he's making part of it for the father, and he doesn't have anything to do with that. So some scholars say, look, this is something that goes back to the culture. And in many cultures, the parents take the dowry. They take it from they don't give the dowry to their daughter. And this is haram. It's taking her husband, taking her money that she needs. She might buy with it her clothes. She might do a lot of things. She might prepare her house, and it's a type of honoring the wife. So therefore, if you honor your wife's parents, you don't give them all the dowry. You can give them a gift. And in our culture, for example, when you get married or you marry a woman, the woman, or you give some gifts to the family and stuff like that. You give gifts and stuff like that. And even the woman gives gifts to the parents, to the brothers and sisters, It's a type of clothes, like clothes or, yeah. وعن علقمة عن ابن مسعود رضي الله عنه أنه سئل عن رجل تزوج امرأة ولم يفرض لها صداقة ولم يدخل بها حتى مات، فقال ابن مسعود: لها مثل صداق نسائها، لا وكس ولا شطط، وعليها العدة، ولها الميراث. فقام معقل بن سنان الأشجعي فقال: قضى رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم في بروع بنت واشق امرأة منا مثل ما قضيت. ففرح بذلك بها ابن مسعود رضي الله عنه. رواه أحمد والأربعة، صححه الترمذي وجماعة. Okay, now look. Narrated Alqama on the authority of Abdullah ibn Mas'ud radiallahu anhu. He was asked about a man who had married a woman and hadn't fixed a dowry for her, and he died not consummate the marriage. Okay, not consummate the marriage with her till he died. So he didn't fix any dowry. Just married. He still didn't come home. He still didn't do anything. He passed away. Poor guy. Ibn Mas'ud replied, she should receive a dowry similar to what the woman of her community receive without decrease or increase. And she must observe the iddah, period of waiting for the remarrying, and is entitled to a share of inheritance. معقل بن يسار sorry, معقل بن سنان al-Ashja'i then got up and said, Allah's Messenger ﷺ ruled the same of your ruling regarding Barwa, daughter of Washiq, a woman of our tribe. Ibn Mas'ud was delighted with it. He was so happy. Why? Because he made what he said by his mind. And then he discovered that it's the same as the Prophet ﷺ did. So he was so happy and glad, of course. Okay. Reported by Ahmad al-Arba'a, Tirmidhi graded it Sahih, authentic, while a group of hadith scholars graded it good. So this means that any woman gets married without speaking about the dowry. This is a valid marriage. Okay? Number two, this means that the woman that you engaged with her, you get engaged to her, if you pass away, she has the right to take her portion from your inheritance. And this means that the dowry is supposed to be. So therefore, you didn't say, but you have to fix a dowry. When is it obligatory? If he passes away. We have to give her dowry. Okay? Now the scholars say here that if he intercourses with her, she has to have a dowry. But the one that he never intercoursed with her, like in this story, the Hanafis and Hanbalis say that she needs to have a dowry similar to her post because of this hadith. And this is so clear. No doubt about that. Shafi'i and Malik and others say she doesn't need the dowry because he passed away, he never intercoursed with her. No dowry here. Because he didn't enjoy her. And the dowry is because of intercoursing. What do they say about this hadith? They say it's not authentic. There's a lot of problems in its chain. But the scholars defended that and they said that the hadith is authentic. And the Quran and Sunnah said that the Quran and Sunnah said that there's no dowry for the wife that you divorce before you intercourse. A woman you divorce before you intercourse and before you mentioned a dowry. So therefore, she doesn't deserve anything. Okay? So therefore, it seems that this hadith, if it's authentic, that what the Hanafis and Hanbalis say is more accepted, actually. Is more accepted, yes. وعن عبد الله بن عامر بن ربيعة عن أبيه عن النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم أجاز نكاح امرأة على نعلين. خرجه الترمذي صححه وخولف في ذلك. Narrated Abdullah ibn Amir ibn Rabi'a, on the authority of his father, the Prophet ﷺ gave his approval of marriage of a woman for two sandals. Two sandals as a dowry. At-Tirmidhi reported it and graded it sahih, authentic, but he was opposed in that grade of the hadith. Now here he mentioned several hadith. Look at these hadith, wait a second. عن سهل بن سعد رضي الله تعالى عنهما قال تزوج النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم رجلا امرأة بخاتم من حديد. خرجه الحاكم وطرف من الحديث الطويل متقدم في أوائل النكاح. وعن علي رضي الله تعالى عنه قال لا يكون المهر أقل من 10 دراهم. أخرجه الدارقطني موقوفا من سنده ما قال. وعن عقبة بن عامر رضي الله عنه قال قال رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم خير الصداق أيسره. أخرجه أبو داود وصححه الحاكم. Narrated Said ibn Sa'd radiallahu anhu, the Prophet ﷺ married a woman to a man for a dowry of an iron ring. The Hakim reported it. It's a portion of al-Hakim of long hadith preceding in the beginning of the book of marriage. We mentioned it. Narrated Ali radiallahu anhu, dowry should not be less than 10 dirhams. Ad-Daraqutni reported it as mawquf, saying as a companion, which is Ali here. Also, there is a defect on in its chain of narrators. A defect of the chains of narrators, yeah. Narrated Uqbat ibn Amir, Allah's Messenger ﷺ said that Allah's Messenger ﷺ said the best dowry is which is most easy. Abu Dawood reported it and al-Hakim graded it as authentic. Okay, no, all these hadith, yeah, there's other hadith here. وعن جابر بن عبد الله رضي الله عنه أن النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم قال من أعطى في صداق امرأة ملء كفيه سويقا أو تمرا فقد استحل. Jabir ibn Abdullah says that the Prophet ﷺ says anyone who gives a dowry to a woman, his 2 hands full of barley or something like that, or dates, she's permissible for him. He's allowed to marry her. It's narrated by Abu Dawood, and he said that it's from the saying of Jabir, not from the saying of the Prophet ﷺ. Anyway, let's go back now to see what is the meaning. What are the meanings of these hadith? All these hadiths mean that there isn't a fixed dowry, no fixed dowry, and that the dowry can be anything that is known in the culture. Any 2 spouses want to get married, they agree about a specific dowry, they're allowed to do that. No fixed dowry. Okay? So, therefore, look, Amr ibn Rabi'a agreed to get married. The woman agreed to get married for slippers. He gave her slippers, sandals. and that is less than 10 dirhams, they might be only 2 dirhams or something like that. Even the iron ring is less than 10 dirhams. And this is the opinion of the Shafi'is and Hanbalis. They say there is nothing fixed about this. Now the Hanafis and Malikis say that the least dowry has to be what, if you steal, the hand would get cut, which is 10 dirhams according to the Hanafis, and 2 dirhams and half. It's 1/4 of dinar. 2 dirhams and a half for the Malikis. It's less than that a lot. Hanafis say 10 dirhams. Malikis say 2.5, which is more easier than the Hanafis actually. And they say that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, وَمَنْ لَمْ يَسْتَطِعْ مِنْكُمْ طَوْلًا, the one of you that cannot have money to get married, which is the meaning of the verse actually. So that means that the one that cannot buy, you cannot have money, that if you steal it, your hand gets cut, that means he doesn't have anything. What? How would he make the woman permissible for him, legal for him, and he doesn't have any money that has any, that worths anything? Actually, so therefore, okay, make an analogy with the hand, with the vagina. That's why Abdulaziz Darawardi said to Imam Malik, well, you became Iraqian now, because he didn't agree with his opinion. He says this opinion is similar to the Iraqis, Hanafis, because they're Iraqis from Iraq. So he said, I don't agree about this. What about these hadith? What do they say about them? Well, they say some hadith are weak. We don't pay attention to them. They're weak. And some don't give a specific meaning. But actually, I feel, I see that what the Hanbalis and Shafi'is say is more accepted and more accepted, yeah. What about this hadith of Ali, that the dowry can't be less than 10 dirhams, as the Hanafis say, because the Hanafis are influenced by Ali a lot, because he's the Imam of Iraq. Ali and Ibn Mas'ud are the 2 Imams of Iraq. Well, they say that this hadith is weak, and the hadith is, you can't say it's an authentic hadith. So therefore, it's weak. Uqba ibn Amir says that the Prophet ﷺ says that the best dowry is the easiest. Well, that's true. That's true. So don't complicate the life for the youth. Make them and prevent them from getting married. وعن عائشة رضي الله عنها أن عمرة بنت الجون تعوذت من رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم حين أدخلت عليه، تعني لما تزوجها، فقال لقد عذت بمعاذ أو بمعاذ، فطلقها وأمر أسامة فمتعها ب3 أثواب. خرجه ابن ماجه في إسناده راوي متروك. وأصل القصة في الصحيح من حديث عائشة رضي الله عنها وأبي أسيد الساعدي رضي الله عنه. Okay, this hadith actually narrated Aisha radiallahu anha and Amrata bint al-Jawn sought refuge in Allah from Allah's Messenger sallallahu alaihi wasallam when he was brought into him, when she was brought into him, meaning when he married her, and he said, you have sought refuge if in the one worthy of seeking refuge in. Then he divorced her and commanded Usama, who gave her 3 garments of as a gift. Now he says here as a dowry. No, that's not dowry. This is called mut'ah. This is called mut'ah. It's not dowry. This is a mistake. Ibn Majah reported it, but there is a rejects narrator in its chain of narrators. The origin of the aforesaid of the aforesaid story is found in the Sahih of al-Bukhari from Abu Usaid al-Sa'idi's hadith. Okay, now actually this hadith with this chain is weak. And all of the origin of the story, and we mentioned this, it doesn't have this parts that he gave her something, or which is the mut'ah actually. Now, anyway, this hadith means that if you divorce a woman before intercoursing with her, and you didn't give her a specific dowry, or you didn't agree about a specific dowry, you are supposed to give her this mut'ah. Mut'ah, the word mut'ah means something that you get enjoyed with. It's as a substitute or something you give instead of the dowry, because you didn't agree about a dowry. You didn't intercourse with her. You divorced her, so you just give her something just to please her, because she became sad. Okay, so therefore, the hadith doesn't say that it's obligatory or not obligatory. But there's a verse in the Quran that says, لا جناح عليكم إن طلقتم النساء ما لم تمسون أو تفرضوا لهن فريضة ومتعوهن على الموسع قدره وعلى المقتدر قدره متاعا بالمعروف حقا للمحسنين. There's no blame on you if you divorce women, as long as you didn't intercourse with them or you didn't give a fixed dowry. So give them money to be enjoyed with, according to according to you, if you're wealthy or not wealthy. If you're wealthy, give her a lot. If you're not wealthy, just give her what you can do. And this is something that is haqqan, something al-muhsinin, the people who do good things. And haqq means that it's a right. A right. So the majority of scholars say it's obligatory. It's obligatory to give this mut'ah. Because the Prophet, Allah Almighty says in the Quran that He ordered, and He says it's haqq, which means it's right. Imam Malik says it's sunnah. Why? Because he says al-muhsinin, the good doers. So it's only something good to do. But what the majority say is more accepted, actually. Okay. I think this is enough for today, inshallah. Thank you very much for being patient with me. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.